All right. Welcome to my experiment. Give me a few seconds to check this out. All right then, sir. Let's see what we've got going on here. Okay, so if I go to my channel, I've never done this before, so we're going to see what how this works out here. Okay, I see. So I guess it's working all right. Man, I look like such a dork. That's all right. How's that look? Okay, do I look respectable? All right, Xena Warrior Princess, pull me through this. Cheers. Topic tonight is house rules. I'm going to talk about house rules. I've got my own. I'm sure anybody watching has their own as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And hey, how you doing, bud? I've got a house full of animals that's always pestering me. It's always fun. Good boy. Okay. All right, so let's see. If we want to talk about my house rules, and everybody probably has some house rules. Although we have some folks that probably like to play exactly according to raw rules as written, and that's cool too. I do that sometimes also. So I'm just kind of curious tonight is just to kind of see how any of my house rules, how they may coincide or perhaps do not coincide with other people's house rules. So that's what I'm interested in doing tonight. By the way, a little side note, I got back from my first gender reveal party. This was a redneck gender reveal party. So there was a rifle used to shoot some kind of explosion that ended up shooting out blue chalk. So it's going to be a boy. So I'm going to be a grandpa. How about that? I'm going to be a grandpa to a little fella. So that was fun. So if you see me sweating overabundantly, that's what's going on. I got back from that party. All right. So house rules. I think house rules are very important. I play a lot of different RPGs, and I don't always use house rules, but when I do, it's dos equis. um, I guess an example would be if I'm playing Dungeon Crawl Classics, I do not tend to use any rules from any other game system. I like to use the rules from that game system, and I play several. I play Dungeon Crawl Classics, Mutant Crawl Classics, Second Edition D&D, First Edition D&D, Castles and Crusades, Call of Cthulhu, whatever the case may be. It just depends on the mood and the time of year. You know, I go back and forth. I play a lot of different RPGs. I'm not a huge fan of mix and matching, although I have done that sometimes. So, because I play several RPGs, I guess that's why I notice um, quite a bit the house rules aspect. So, house rules, what I do use with those with is, for instance, if I'm playing 5th edition, I will use some of my house rules for 5th edition. Those same house rules rarely will be something I can use for another game system. So that's just my take on it. And we'll see in the conversation below how some of the other folks view that. Okay, so an example would be, let's take 5th edition for instance. I'm a big fan of the WEGS, W-E-G-S, WEGS old school RPG system, and WEGS requires poker chips. And you can use these poker chips to up the ante or improve your die rolls if you feel lucky or unlucky, however the case may be. Well, I've kind of borrowed some of that. So when I'm playing 5th edition, I have a video on this as well, so feel free to backtrack and look at that. But I have a video that shows this. But one of my house rules is if I'm playing 5th edition D&D, I like to use poker chips to represent the character's hit points, or their hit dice, or their wounds. The reason I like to do that is because in an actual combat, you're looking across the table at the other players, and you don't readily see how bad off or how well off their characters are as far as combat or their wounds go. By using poker chips to establish these wounds or hit points, you have a stack. And so what that allows you to do is allows you to look across the table and very easily see the condition of your fellow PCs. So that's the reason I like to use those. As a matter of fact, Donald Sutherland here. That's actually what this is. This is for my Shuffling Horror board game, which is made by the same creator that makes Legs, one of my favorite games. But I made this receptacle. What this is basically something to throw your poker chips into when you're playing Shuffling Horror. You can do the same thing for any RPG, but whenever you're using your poker chips, just gives you something thematical to throw your chips into. So that's what old Donald Sutherland back there doing. He's back there doing from the oh, check this out. Another little Wegs theme that I come up with is the spaceships. So you know the spaceship or space battle games are pretty popular now. So Wegs is very adaptable. The Wegs RPG system, it's very adaptable. You can use that for any theme you want. The Wegs system as is actually for fantasy RPGs. And what I've done with that though is it's very easy to do. You can use that system with a Western theme, or in this case, a intergalactic space battle theme. You know, I just made these with little Debbie cards and some pictures I printed off the internet, so that's kind of fun. So let's see. That's one of my house rules is the poker chips. What's another one? I'm an old school guy, so I'm not a big fan of 5th editions. Um, the way they've done cantrips. So what I did is I've noticed a lot of their cantrips are damage causing. And to me, I still like the idea of cantrips not necessarily being something you use for damage causing effect. But I like cantrips. I'm a fan of cantrips. So my compromise is when I'm doing 5th edition D&D, when I'm running that system, cantrips, any damage causing cantrips are treated as first level spells. So that's pretty much all that is. So it's a nice little compromise. That's just to help me keep my low fantasy theme going. I like Forgotten Realms, Hyperborea, Lankmar. I like to use these kind of world settings. I've been known to use the Western setting for Dungeons and Dragons or WEGs, fantasy RPG. So that's just something I like to do. And so I kind of keep it real and down to earth, low fantasy, very tangible, a lot of gritty realism in that. And that's just how I do that. GM Barry, I don't know about my house rules. Barry has heard me do this before a little bit, so I kind of experimented on Facebook, and that's kind of my theme. Oh, by the way, Barry, you like my shirt? Like my shirt? Yeah, good was experienced on Facebook. Yeah, so that's kind of my experimental phase. Is if I'm doing this chat stuff on Facebook, I've done that a few times so far just to experiment and play around with it. So what I've discovered is I'll do that on Facebook for a little bit, and then that just kind of gives me an idea of where the conversation goes, kind of prepares me a little bit. So that's my practice. And then, of course, I'm trying it tonight for the first time ever on YouTube live. So we'll see how that pans out. I don't have a lot of viewers right now. That's okay. I'll just go my typical, 10, 15 minutes, whatever the case may be. And I can always just leave this on for people to watch later on. But yeah, we're talking about house rules. I know a lot of GM Barry's house rules because I've been the victim of many of many, well, actually not many of his games because I only get to see him in person once a year. But we've had many conversations, and we get to talk about those. Barry says, "I think you can share this on Facebook also." Well, you might be right, my friend. I am very low tech savvy, so I guess we'll cross that bridge one day when I ever get there. Um, yeah. So for those who might see this, GM Barry, he is well, he's certainly one of the most interesting characters I've ever met. I met GM Barry at GaryCon years ago. We kind of hit it off. He was passing around free drinks in one of Heidi Gygax's games. I just happened to be there. I partook of some of his generosity. We've been pals ever since. I will try out mine tomorrow, he says. Okay, yeah. So GM Barry's going to be trying out his, what, YouTube? You going to try the YouTube thing tomorrow? Or Facebook? Well, you're probably savvy enough to be able to do both at the same time. But, so yeah, feel free to leave any of that information here. So, before you joined on, Barry, I was kind of mentioning some of my house rules as far as the poker chip stacks, just to allow people to see hit points across the table, so they don't have to keep asking, "Hey, where's your hit points at?" and that kind of stuff. And so let's see, what's another one of mine? Of course, the cantrips. Cantrips, if they cause damage, I consider those are treated as first level spells. Not everybody's going to like that idea. Yeah, that's okay. That's just my personal house rule to keep it, a low magic setting, which is kind of the flavor I like to go with. And let's see, what's another of my one of my typical house rules? As far as fifth edition goes, another house rule is if you're first level, don't you can't start out with a 19 in any stat. That's just first levels only. Now, as you progress, and by magical means, 19 stat is achievable. It's a little overpowering for my personal taste, but it's doable. Barry says he likes high magic. Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of the opposite, Mr. Barry, GM Barry. I'm kind of the opposite. I like the high magic stories and I like the high magic adventures, but it depends. If I'm running the game, I tend to the way I envision RPG fantasy scenarios tends to be the old school, the original. Think of the original Conan movie with Schwarzenegger, right? In the original, it's a very low magic world. Magic exists, but it's very gritty. I like to. The higher the magic, the less I can taste as a player or a GM. The higher the magic, the less I can taste the grit of the realism. Now that's just me. That's just a personal preference. That's what I like to do. Of course, people argue with me on that. That's okay. To each his own. So Barry likes high magic. I'm not surprised. GM Barry was running me through a game one time, me and some other folks at GaryCon, and it was that was a wild game. In that scenario, there's everybody in the party was a bunch of dwarves, and we're on this mission. We have to find these ingredients. Part of the ingredients was dragon blood. There was all kind of crazy things. So we had to find these ingredients, and the mission called for us to interact with some monks in this monastery that was off and doing their own little private thing up on the cliffside, and those were good times. So we interact with these monks, and they're not exactly the friendliest sort. They don't like dwarves. I think they were racist toward dwarves, and they invite us to a drinking challenge game. We accept. The party members accept, and we lose. We wake up the next day, and they've shaved our beards, and we're locked outside the monastery. And we really were upset about that. Well, come to find out, a couple years later, GM Barry finally fessed up, and he's like, "Hey, those monks cheated, so they neutralized the poison in the drink, and that's why they were able to drink that strong stuff. And the dwarves, who you would expect would make it, didn't quite make it. So, what's our closing point, GM Barry? I guess the closing point for me would be, house rules are a wonderful and blessed thing. I encourage them. I think that's a good balance. Is don't be the guy that sticks strictly to the book. Be the guy that is willing to alter things ever so slightly, or a lot if that's your bag. But be the guy that's willing to alter rules in accordance to the flavor and the direction of the story you want to run. And I guess that's my closing thing there. Minimal is best. Jim Barry says minimal is best. I agree. I agree. Hey, buddy. Look at there. Look at my little buddy here. There we go. That's Boots. He knows I'm allergic to cats, and that's why he never stops pestering me. Look at that. All right, buddy. Go do your thing. Go do your thing. So here's cheers to Boots. Hey, GM Barry. I don't know if you caught this. When I first turned the video thing on, I was talking about my redneck gender reveal party. You know, back in the day. Ouch! Back in the day, you found out if a baby was going to be a boy or a girl because you got a phone call or you was there when it happened. Yeah, that is a big cat. He's a chump. He's a chump and a chunk. He's a chunk. There he goes again. But tonight I went to my first redneck gender reveal party. I'm going to be a grandpa of a little boy. I posted a video of the AR-15 shooting the firework that shot off the blue chalk. I've got a video of that on my Dungeons and Dragons Facebook page, so feel free to check that out if you get bored and want to see it. But yeah, I agree. I'm a minimalist, and I like to think that has something to do with being a Gygaxian style player. I like to take it to the old. I do think less is more, so I agree with Mr. Barry on that. By the way, GM Barry is a professional dungeon master. He's new at this. I'm doing a gender reveal tomorrow? No way. What's the odds of that? Are you serious? Is that a joke? What's the odds of that happening? Anyway, yeah. So GMB Gaming is a Facebook page, and it's Game Master Barry's Facebook. And so he's getting this whole professional dungeon master thing off the ground. So feel free to check him out. That's GMB Gaming, and that's on Facebook. You can't miss it. And yes, serious. How about that? Well, how about that? There's probably a minute or so lag behind from when you type that in and I can see it, so forgive me for that. But yeah, how about that? So who are you going to be gender revealing for there, GM Barry? Are you having another one? What did I miss? What did I miss here? I've had this cup forever. It's my John Wayne cup. So let's see, it's 17 minutes. That's actually a couple minutes longer than I thought. Oh, he's not saying. Okay. All right, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, let's see. I guess I'll close out of here. If you catch this and if you're interested, I am working on a couple videos right now. One of them is going to be giving you my 2 cents on Tim Kask's Snake Riders of the Arredondo. Very exciting adventure. Going to have a lot of details on that coming out real soon in an upcoming video. Keep an eye on YouTube for that. Another YouTube video I'm working on as we speak is a documentary on the 3 werewolves of Walnut Grove. Yes, Little House on the Prairie. The 3 werewolves of Walnut Grove. Walnut Grove is not as innocent and mundane and docile as you might think. There were 3 werewolves that came from that show, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So, all right, I'm going to get off here. This is my experiment to try this whole YouTube thing live. I've never done it before until tonight, so we'll see how that goes. So thank you very much for watching. Share this with your friends. Feel free to like and give me some encouragement and some feedback, and we'll see what we can do with my limited resources and yada, yada, yada. Until the next time, remember, keep your books off the table. People need that space for dice and for miniatures and all those things. So keep your books off the table and keep reaching for the dice. All right. All right here.